tip over.
Okay, now we're recording.
Should we shut the door?
We can leave it open. We might shut it when we do the video, though.
Okay.
Yeah. So, actually, yeah. When we start the TED Talk,
The lights.
can you close and turn off the lights over there? Awesome. Okay. Cool. In that case, I asked you guys to get seated, but now I'm going to have you stand. I think you know how this works. All right. How about if we go?
Come on!
That was fantastic, everybody. Welcome to Sunday Assembly Sacramento. Woo! All right. Love it. That mic might be a little too high, too.
It's a little hot.
Yeah. Well, welcome to Sunday Assembly Sacramento. Thank you all for being here and not for being at Skeptical, which is a wonderful event. But you guys are all here. And let's just say hello to everybody who I'm sure is going to be watching this on YouTube thanks to Thomas's recording. Let's say hi to them back at that camera back there. Just waiting to say hi. Everyone at Skeptical who just wasn't here today, but that's okay. We still love them, don't we? Yes, we do.
They can bring a trip report.
That's right. I hope they do. I hope they do. Tell us all about the great things that we're missing. Emergency exits are those two directions. If you brought a kid, take the kid with you. If you have a cell phone on, turn it off. Sunday Assembly is a secular congregation. We are here to celebrate life, to wonder more, live better, and help often. We are radically inclusive in the sense that we respect all people, all beliefs, all ideologies, everything. But we are a secular congregation. That's kind of what sets us apart from some of our other counterparts in the community. Is there anybody here that's new to Sunday Assembly? First time? Welcome. And now to spend the next 5 minutes telling us about himself, go right ahead. What is your name? Zach. Welcome, Zach. Thank you for coming to Sunday Assembly. We normally are a bigger group. There's usually like 2 or 3 extra people that are here. But,
We overflow.
Yes. Anybody been here for more than a year? Yeah, almost. I'd say. Very cool. Very cool. We've got a lot of people to thank for getting things going today. Becky is doing childcare. She was ready. She came out for the song. She ran back. Everyone say thanks, Becky, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Thanks, Becky. I'm sure she heard that. And a lot of people who are here as early as like 9 o'clock this morning setting up. I want to thank Ken especially, there you are, for filling in for Nancy today, who is at Skeptical. So thank you, Ken. And everyone else who helped him, Sylvia, Billy, Sarah, Marie, and Alan, and anyone else I forgot. Thank you so much for being a part of this today. Anyone who's run an event in the last couple of months, Thomas for running our videography, and of course I want to thank the Reason Center, and Alan is a part of that, for giving us a place to have this community that we cherish. The Reason Center is a great facility, as you can see. Any of you are welcome to have events here. It's extremely affordable. They're very accommodating, and birthday parties. We've had weddings here, we've had business things, a lot of community groups meet here, and so if you're a part of a group somewhere and you're looking for a place to hold your meetings, if the other places are charging you too much or it's too inconvenient, give Alan a call, send him an email, or just talk to him today after the service, and he'll give you all the information that you need. So today is about overcoming diversity, and the reason for this particular theme was first, we were kicking around some ideas, and Barrett suggested that he could give a talk about that kind of concept. But then I was reading the news yesterday morning. Anybody read what happened in Roseville yesterday?
Yeah. Yes.
Right? And I'm like, what a great opportunity to like take what we were talking about and then like mold it into this idea of overcoming diversity. And of course we couldn't like in 24 hours get like this amazing speaker to come in and talk about this, but I did find a really cool TED Talk that I think you're going to enjoy that focuses on this. Janet was at the protest, counter-protest, counter-protest, whatever, so she's going to be talking to you a little bit. She brought some pictures back with her. I've got some upcoming events to share with you, but then also during our announcement area, if any of you have anything that you'd like to share, if it's somebody's birthday, something that you just want to talk about, some kind of accomplishment or challenge that you're having, or an announcement of your own, feel free to take the mic and do that. Following today's service, we do have our potluck social hour. You're welcome to stick around for that, even if you didn't bring anything. But it should be a nice, great day for us today. And the funny thing about, that I want to say about the whole Roseville thing, it was and Jenna will talk more about this, it was a protest about Muslims in the United States. It was basically, the idea was to get rid of them, or at the very least, I think the people would say, because they're afraid of Sharia law becoming a thing in the United States. I'm an atheist. I think many of us in this group are, or of the non-belief variety. And I'm a firm believer in the sense that we criticize not a person, but their ideas in a sense, especially when those ideas have a varying degree of merit. And it bugs me so much to see so much hate coming out of people because of what people believe and not challenging the belief itself. But I'm sure Janet will talk a little bit about that. She was there, I wasn't. But I did see some pictures, and some of the signs were disturbing as well. So there's your trigger warning right there. Trigger warning. Anyway, so let's get in this. Alan, if you could take care of the lights and the door. This is a really great TED Talk. I think is apropos to what we're doing in Roseville, what just happened in Roseville. This is Yasmin Abdel Magid, and she's going to talk about her Head Start. So let's give her a listen.
just like me walks past you in the street? Do you think they're a mother, a refugee, or a victim of oppression? Or do you think they're a cardiologist, a barrister, or maybe your local politician? Do you look me up and down, wondering how hot I must get, or if my husband has forced me to wear this outfit? What if I wore my scarf like this? I can walk down the street in the exact same outfit, and what the world expects of me and the way I'm treated depends on the arrangement of this piece of cloth. But this isn't going to be another monologue about the hijab, because Lord knows Muslim women are so much more than the piece of cloth they choose to wrap or not wrap their head in. This is about looking beyond your bias. What if I walked past you and later on you'd found out that actually I was a race car engineer and that I designed my own race car and I ran my university's race team? Because it's true. What if I told you that I was actually trained as a boxer for 5 years? Because that's true too. Would it surprise you? Why? Ladies and gentlemen, ultimately that surprise and the behaviours associated with it are the product of something called unconscious bias or implicit prejudice. And that results in the ridiculously detrimental lack of diversity in our workforce, particularly in areas of influence. Hello, Australian Federal Cabinet. Let me just set something out from the outset, right? Unconscious bias is not the same as conscious discrimination. I'm not saying that in all of you there's a secret sexist or racist or just like lurking within waiting to get out, right? That's not what I'm saying. We all have our biases. They're the filters through which we see the world around us, right? I'm not accusing anyone. Bias is not an accusation. Rather, it's something that has to be identified, acknowledged, and mitigated against. Bias can be about race, it can be about gender, it can also be about class, education, disability. The fact is we all have biases against what's different to our social norms. The thing is, if we want to live in a world where the circumstances of your birth do not dictate your future, and where equal opportunity is ubiquitous, then each and every one of us has a role to play in making sure unconscious bias does not determine our lives. There's this really famous experiment in the space of unconscious bias, and that's in the space of gender, in the 1970s and 1980s. So orchestras back in the day were made up mostly of dudes. There was up to only 5% were female, and apparently that was because men played it differently, presumably better, presumably. But in 1952, the Boston Symphony Orchestra started an experiment. They started blind auditions. So rather than face-to-face auditions, you would have to play behind a screen. Now, funnily enough, right, no immediate change was registered until they asked the auditioners to take their shoes off before they entered the room. Because the clickety-clack of the heels against the hardwood floors was enough to give the ladies away. Now get this. The results of the audition showed that there was a 50% increased chance a woman would progress past the preliminary stage, and it almost tripled their chances of getting in. What does that tell us? Well, unfortunately for the guys, men actually didn't play differently, but there was the perception that they did. And it was that bias that was determining their outcome. So what we're doing here is identifying and acknowledging that a bias exists. And look, we all do it, right? Let me give you an example. A son and his father are in a horrible car accident, right? The father dies on impact, and the son, who's severely injured, is rushed to hospital. The surgeon looks at the son when they arrive and is like, I can't operate. Why? The boy is my son. How can that be? Ladies and gentlemen, the surgeon is his mother. Now hands up, and it's okay, but hands up if you initially assumed the surgeon was a guy. There's evidence that that unconscious bias exists, but we all just have to acknowledge that it's there and then look at ways that we can move past it so that we can look at solutions. Now, one of the interesting things around the space of unconscious bias is the topic of quotas, and this is something that's often brought up. And one of the criticisms is this idea of merit. Look, I don't want to be picked, because I'm a chick, right? I want to be picked because I have merit, because I'm the best person for the job. It's a sentiment that's pretty common among female engineers that I work with and that I know. And yeah, I get it, I've been there. But if the merit idea was true, why would identical resumes, in an experiment done in 2012 by Yale, identical resumes sent out for a lab technician, why would Jennifer be deemed less competent, be less likely to be offered the job, and be paid less than John's? The unconscious bias is there, but we just have to look at how we can move past it. And, you know, it's interesting, there's some research that talks about why this is the case, and it's called the merit paradox, right? And in organizations, and this is kind of ironic, in organizations that talk about merit being their primary value driver in terms of who they hire, they were more likely to hire dudes and more likely to pay the guys more, because apparently merit is a masculine quality. But hey. Alright, so you guys think you've got a good read on me, kind of think you know what's up. Can you imagine me running one of these? Can you imagine me walking and be like, hey boys, this is what's up, this is how it's done? Well, I'm glad you can. Ladies and gentlemen, that's my day job. And the cool thing about it is that it's pretty entertaining. Actually, in places like Malaysia, Muslim women on rigs isn't even comment-worthy. There are that many of them. But it is entertaining. I remember when one of the guys, I was telling one of the guys, hey mate, look, I really want to learn how to surf, right? And he's like, Yasmin, I don't know how you can surf with all that gear you got on. And I don't know any women-only beaches. And then the guy came up with a brilliant idea. He was like, I know, you run that organization, Youth Without Borders, right? Why don't you start like a clothing line for like Muslim chicks and beaches? You can call it Youth Without Board Shorts. And I was like, thanks guys. And then I remember another bloke telling me that I should eat all the yogurt I could, because that was the only culture I was going to get around there. Right? But the problem is, it's kind of true, because there's an intense lack of diversity in our workforce, particularly in places of influence. Now, in 2010, the Australian National University did an experiment where they sent out 4,000 identical applications, right, to entry-level jobs, essentially. To get the same number of interviews as someone with an Anglo-Saxon name, if you were Chinese, you had to send out 68% more applications. If you're Middle Eastern, Abdul Majid, you have to send out 64%. And if you're Italian, you're pretty lucky. You only have to send out 12% more. In places like Silicon Valley, it's not that much better, right? In Google, they put out some diversity results, and 61% white, 30% Asian, and 9 a bunch of blacks, Hispanics, all that kind of thing. And the rest of the tech world is not that much better, and they've acknowledged it, but I'm not really sure what they're doing about it. And the thing is, it doesn't trickle up. In a study done by Green Park, who are a British sort of senior exec supplier, they said that over half of the FTSE 100 companies don't have a non-white leader at their board level, executive or non-executive, and 2 out of every 3 don't have an executive who's from a minority. And most of the minorities that are at that sort of level are non-executive board directors, so their influence isn't that great. But hey, look, I mean, I've told you a bunch of terrible things, and you're like, oh my god, how bad is that? What can I do about it? Well, fortunately, we've identified that there's a problem. There's a lack of opportunity, and that's due to unconscious bias. But you might be sitting there thinking, well, I am brown, what's that got to do with me? Let me offer you a solution. And as I said before, we live in a world where we're looking for an ideal. And if we want to create a world where the circumstances of your birth don't matter, we all have to be part of the solution. And interestingly, the author of the lab resume experiment offered some sort of a solution. She said the one thing that brought the successful women together, the one thing they had in common, was the fact that they had good mentors. So mentoring, we've all kind of heard that before, it's in the vernacular. Here's another challenge for you. I challenge each and every one of you to mentor someone different. Think about it, right? Everyone wants to mentor someone who kind of is familiar, who looks like us, we have shared experiences. If I see a Muslim chick who's got a bit of attitude, I'm like, what's up? We can hang out, right? You walk into a room and there's someone who went to the same school, you play the same sports, there's a high chance that you're going to want to help that person out. But for the person in the room who has no shared experiences with you, it becomes extremely difficult to find that connection. So the idea of finding someone different to mentor, someone who doesn't come from the same background as you, whatever that background is about opening doors for people who couldn't even get to the damn hallway. Because ladies and gentlemen, the world is not just. People are not born with equal opportunity. I was born in one of the poorest cities in the world, Khartoum. I was born brown, I was born female, and I was born Muslim in a world that is pretty suspicious for reasons I can't control. However, I also acknowledge the fact that I was born with privilege. I was born with amazing parents, I was given an education and had the blessing of migrating to Australia. But also, I've been blessed with amazing mentors who've opened doors for me that I didn't even know were there. A mentor who said to me, hey, your story is interesting. Let's write something about it so that I can share it with people. A mentor who said, I know you're all the things that don't belong on an Australian rig, but come on anyway. And here I am talking to you. And I'm not the only one. There's all sorts of people in my communities that I see have been helped out by mentors. A young Muslim man in Sydney who ended up using his mentor's help to start up a poetry slam in Bankstown, and now it's a huge thing, and he's able to change the lives of so many other young people. Or a lady here in Brisbane, an Afghani lady who's a refugee, who barely speaks English when she came to Australia. Her mentors helped her become a doctor, and she took out Young Queensland of the Year in 2008. She's an inspiration, right? This is so not smooth. This is me, right? But I'm also the woman in the red clothes, and I'm also the woman that was in the Ibaya at the beginning. Would you have chosen to mentor me if you'd seen me in one of those other versions of who I am? Because I'm that same person. We have to look past our unconscious bias. Find someone to mentor who's at the opposite end of your spectrum. Because structural change takes time, and I don't have that level of patience. Okay? So, if we're going to create a change, if we're going to create a world where we all have those kind of opportunities, then choose to open doors for people. Because you might think that diversity has nothing to do with you, but we are all part of the system and we can all be part of that solution. And if you don't know where to find someone different, go to the places you wouldn't usually go. If you enroll in private high school tutoring, go to your local state school, or maybe just drop into your local refugee tutoring centre. Or perhaps you work at an office. Take out that new grad who looks totally out of place, because that was me, and open doors for them, not in a tokenistic way, because we're not victims, but show them the opportunities, because opening up your world will make you realize that you have access to doors they didn't even know existed, and you didn't even know they didn't have. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a problem in our community with lack of opportunity, especially due to unconscious bias, but each and every one of you has the potential to change that. And I know you've been given a lot of challenges today, but if you can take this one piece and think about it a little differently, because diversity is magic, right? And I encourage you to look past your initial perceptions, because I bet you they're probably wrong. Thank you.
All right. What do you guys think? Not bad? Good, good. Well, as we always do after our main speaker, we get back up on our feet and we do another song. That's right.
Oh boy. Which song is that? Oh, this
Someone told me life was gonna be this way. Job was joking, broken, love might be away. But you're always stuck in second gear. Where it hasn't been your day, or week, or month, or even your year. I'll be there for you. I'll be there for you. I'll be there for you. I'll be there for you.
Alright. That's what about that. Alright, that was fantastic. Thank you all. Alright. Where did he go?
He said something about couldn't take it anymore.
No! Derek, you're on. Where are you?
Nature call.
That's right. Good timing on that one. Alright. Barrett has been part of our community for quite a while. He was born in Sacramento, moved to Japan as a child, lived there until he was 30, and now he provides diplomacy services for the Japanese. And to tell us more about how he is doing his best, please welcome Barrett.
So I actually don't do work in diplomacy now. Sorry, miscommunication. I did that before I moved back to the States, which is about going on 7, going on 8 years ago. And when we start with it, let's go back in time. A lot of people ask me, you asked me earlier, well, okay, how did you end up over there? Most people assume that I was a military brat or something of that sort, or at the very least I went with my family. No, I went by myself, and it was not my choice. So when I was young, about to enter middle school, my family was extremely destitute, and then fortuitously they heard from a Japanese friend of theirs, whom they hadn't spoken to in a long time, but he felt indebted to them for something they'd done for him many years before I was even born. And he offered to host me. And so my parents sent me over there, and I lived with this man and his family. Turns out he had a son the same age, and so I went to school with his son, my host brother, and I lived with them through public school. And then I went to college, and then I got a job. Well, actually, I got a job before. I had a bunch of jobs as a kid, and then I got a more official job later during college, and then afterwards, after I graduated, I went had a different career. This was actually in architecture, and then that industry tanked, and I was looking for something else, and I happened into diplomacy. It was just in the right place at the right time, and so I ended up becoming a Japanese ambassador. I was part of the foreign aid division, and so I would help negotiate deals on Japan's behalf for foreign aid. And so that's kind of where I ended up, and that's the connection to what I was talking with David about via email previously. But now I'd like to go back to when I was a kid. So when I was a kid, I lived in a place called Totori, It was in the southern part of Japan, not the southernmost, but the southernmost of the main island at least, right across from Korea. And it still is actually the least populated part of the whole country, and back then it was even fewer people. And I was the only outsider for several hundred miles in any direction. So it was a difficult experience. It probably would have been difficult in any place if it weren't, not even just in Japan, but to be the only different person. And I think that relates to what you guys saw in the TED Talk video, because there are unconscious biases, and sometimes we are aware of our biases and choose still to act upon them. So there are people like that as well. And then there's the other type, the well-meaning but still people who act upon their biases because they're just not yet aware of them or ready to confront them actively. But in Japan, it was perhaps more trying than it might have been elsewhere just because of the way the culture works. And I was not prepared for it as well. The only Japanese words I spoke when I first went were the ones that we've adopted into English, like sushi, katana, samurai, those few words. So I had about a lexicon of about a dozen words. And it didn't get me very far. As you can imagine, sushi is pretty much the only one that's used regularly. The other words don't come up very often. So I had to learn, I struggled. My host mom was a little bit of help, but as I came to find out very quickly, Japanese are not very good at teaching their own language. It ties into actually the other aspect of the culture, which I'll just come out with, which is that it's a very, very different place. And by virtue of the way their culture is set up, they're extraordinarily xenophobic. And not that they're bad people at their cores, they probably mean well, but it's kind of a product of how the culture works. If you guys can imagine, any of you seen, what was that movie? Well, never mind. I can't remember the title, so it's not a very good analogy. But if you get a picture behind the Iron Curtain, back in the days of the Soviet Empire, the Cold War, all right, if you're unfortunate enough to be born and be forced to live behind the Iron, does everyone know what the Iron Curtain is, by the way? Okay, so if you live behind the Iron Curtain, then you were subject to constant scrutiny. It wasn't just the Gestapo that you had to be worried about, but it was everyone else around you. You had to act as if everyone was a member of the Gestapo, because they could be. They could be deputized on the moment, or we could just inform them, and they could make stuff up. So you had to be extra careful, because it's not even just about what you've done or haven't done, but people could just make stuff up, and maybe they just want to get you out of the way for some reason. Or maybe they want to cast suspicion off of themselves, so they offer you up instead as a sacrifice. Right? So everyone's worried about everyone else. You probably all heard that saying, the walls have ears. I don't know if it necessarily came from there, time and period, but it definitely applies. In Japan, it's very much the same. Still is. That's kind of how their culture works. As you can imagine, if you have a culture like that, A, they don't handle diversity very well. And B, I mean, they're suspicious of generally everyone, even if you look like them, which I definitely did not do. So, I think that that's really important, and I bring this up because when I came back to the States, I was teaching for a number of years at the University of Pacific in Stockton. And unfortunately, I no longer teach there, and that was due to huge cuts. The department, the language department, was drastically cut. I was let go. A lot of other professors, very, very good, talented professors who taught very worthwhile classes, were all let go. And I feel that it's very unfortunate, not just for the sake of those people's careers, but I think that our learning really is the sum of our 5 senses times how long we've been alive. And it's the way that we think really is that we, let me back up for a second and say that we like to imagine that our brains function differently from computers, but in many ways we don't. So our thinking is actually very, very simple. We relate to prior experience. We go back and relate new sensory input to stored past sensory input. And that's really all that we do. We don't have a lot of it's not very complex how the brains work. It does it very quickly, and that's largely due to how well we store data and how well we can retrieve it. But that's all that we do. And so really the way to expand our thinking is to get more data to draw upon. So that when we're confronted with new experiences, new inputs coming in, we have a vast, larger pool to compare to analogize to, okay? And so I feel that while it was hard living there, staying for as long as I did, and on one hand I kind of think maybe I should have left sooner, on the other hand it was very, very rewarding, or at least beneficial, in the sense that it did expand my thinking. And that's why I try to pass on to my students, and that's why I feel that it's unfortunate that language courses are being curtailed at the rate that they are. Because it's not really so much a language course, it's cross-cultural communication. It's expanding people's thinking. Because in order to communicate with someone from a different background, you have to understand that background. And that gives you that extra pool to draw upon, not just when you're communicating with someone, but when you're approaching any kind of a new problem. Thank you.
That was great, Barrett. Thank you so much. So we've heard the TED Talk. We've had Barrett's experience shared with us. And of course, we've had the talk, a short little thing, I talked about the Roseville stuff. So with that, let's enter into our moment of reflection. Think about what we've heard today. Think about the challenge from our TED Talk to maybe find someone to mentor and share our opportunity with others. Give me some time. So now we move on to our open floor, where anyone can share any announcements. I've got a couple upcoming events and a couple reminders. Janet's going to talk about her experiences yesterday, so we'll get right on to that. Oops, didn't mean for that to come up. If you have this coming Saturday event, AOF has been for 20-some years, I think 21 or 22 years now, been cleaning up a patch of highway right near the airport on I-5 and Elkhorn, I think it is. Yeah. I'd love to see some Sunday assemblers out there helping them out. And it's a lot of fun. Sarah and I have done the one in Lodi a couple times, and it's safe. It only takes a couple hours. You find some interesting trash, and I'm sure they could use the help. The more people that are out there, the faster it goes, or the more area they can clean at once. They tend to do that about every 2 or 3 months, I think. And so the next opportunity is June 17th. So they do it in the morning before it gets too warm. You can find out more details of that on the meetup page. We've got SAC Fan. They're going to do their next book club on the 19th, Monday, and their book is the book from David Silverman, President of American Atheists. His book is Fighting God, and it's a lot about his views and his experience running American Atheists. On the 25th of June, someone named Marie Bain, she's going to be doing some kind of concert thing. I don't know what that is.
Thank you for that.
I don't know. Tell us about what you're going to do.
All right, most of you know me, so yes, it's going to be in 2 weeks from today. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It's here. It's free. bring your friends. It's entertainment. I wrote the songs. I am, you know, a professional person. I'm union, so it's not like, I don't mean to cut anybody if I am doing that, but I'm not an amateur. So you're not going to have to sit through 30 minutes of bad singing. So you'll get more like 45 minutes of really great singing. With hopefully some entertainment, but it is, I love my title, I came up with eclectic jazz. That's my own bullshit name. I'm very proud of that, because what the hell does that mean? I don't know. You know, but I thought it sounded interesting. And it is jazz that I basically style myself. It is free thought, lyrics, ideas, concepts, and so I try to be, you know, interesting and fun, but also getting some punches in there. So, enough of that. Hopefully you can come, free, bring your friends, what else? It's an hour, boom, in and out, then you can go off and have dinner and watch a movie or something. So yeah, here it is.
And your postcards? Do they have that on the
Postcards are
back?
there. If you want a reminder, I have postcards with this event on the back, so it'll help you remember the time and the date.
Cool. And that's also on our meetup site.
Yes.
And then fast forward to the middle of July, Da Vinci, some of you have heard of him. Every now and then, I think the last one was about 10 years ago, the Aerospace Museum near Roseville, or Auburn, they have this amazing exhibit on Da Vinci. I went there when they did 10 years ago, which was great. They have paintings, they have things that he built, mechanical stuff. Yeah, it's just amazing to see. And you know, we've heard of some of the stuff that Da Vinci has done and his contributions to the world, but to see just this giant room dedicated to him is really cool. And then on top of that, the Aerospace Museum has all their normal exhibits. And so if you're into any of that stuff, I'd love to see like just a huge Sunday assembly group just checking that place out. It's not anything formal, just show up when you can, leave when you can, be on your own. But the details are up on the website. It's pretty inexpensive to go, and it should be a lot of fun. And then of course we got Free Thought Day weekend over in October. We'll have many more announcements about that next month. So all these and more are up on meetup.com and Facebook, and search for Sunday Sunday Sacramento. You'll see that. Along the same lines, if any of you want to host something, whether it's a one-off event like going to the museum, or for a while Ken was doing the wine and TED Talks, I'd love to see those come back. Maybe you got kids and you want to take the kids and on a monthly, quarterly basis, head to a certain place, a park, a zoo, whatever it is. You're all welcome to put stuff on our calendar. Populate it, fill it up. All you have to do is, from the homepage, click schedule a new meetup, fill in some details about what you want to do, where you're going, and when, and that triggers an email to me. I proofread it and send it out to everybody else, and people show up. So any holiday parties, movie releases, whatever it is that's coming up, please think about inviting all of your closest friends to join us. All right, so Janet, you wanted to talk a little bit about what's coming up. Yeah, and I don't know what order they're coming in, but just
I'm just going to press them really fast.
just go for the space bar and you're all set.
It's you.
There's me.
There you
I'm
go.
Holland White. So let me explain to you. I'm at a friend's house, neighbors are drinking wine. Her daughter comes over. Her daughter has had a job in the past where she works with refugees, getting them settled in other countries. She worked for an NGO, so she's big on this. But she came home to her mom's house between jobs, and she was like, "What this kind of settling into what's next?" And she's become very involved with local organizations that are helping anything to do with immigration, refugee families, and things like that. As you know, deportations are happening around us, a lot of sad stories about going on there. And so she says, oh, on Saturday morning there's a rally. So, I just didn't do that again. Okay, so, guess I'll be back. I agreed to go to a rally. I don't usually rally. I used to do rallies in the past. I find writing and there's better ways to do some things. However, on Friday night there was a huge interfaith dinner because the local Muslim community in Roseville at their facility had invited a lot of people to come because they were going to break their fast. And it was at that there were discussions about some of the prejudices and unnice things that have been happening. And it turns out, these are good guys. You'll notice a lot of white clothing.
I can advance for you if you want me to.
Why is it not moving space? Space.
Oh, is it not?
How do these good guys know each other?
Okay, well, let me tell you who was there. I thought there was going to be good guys and bad guys. What we heard was that there was a group called Act for America, and their website, you can Google them, Act for America, believes that they are an anti-Muslim group, and their little dog whistle that they had on many of their posters was, that's not this group, was against Sharia law. I'm against Sharia law. Most of you probably are. We're against Christian law. We want our government secular. Your faith is your faith. Your government needs to bring us all to the table respectfully, right? Okay. So, that is how they are saying to people, is that we're against Sharia law. But in reality, one guy had a sign that had American flags all over it, and then he had written in with his hand, you know, the FU word, Islam, which is not a polite way to engage with anybody, but anyway. So, across from the fountains, there was the fountains. Oh, it's now moving on its own.
It's
Okay.
not, yeah.
There's all the people in white. I was with them. They were organized by Indivisible, Resist, which sometimes goes Indivisible from Roseville and from Yolo County, and then People of Faith Together, which is Placer County. Now, this young woman was also against the Act for America. Their group is called Act Now to End War and Discrimination, and End Discrimination, so it stands for ANSWER. So on their side, they have people, and the reason I spoke with this young woman for a while, they're very anti-police. So my side in the white, and I didn't really have a side, I was just there against people protesting against a group of people. When you talk about being an other in another land, it's upsetting to me that if you're an American and you're Muslim, you're made to feel other. So these people were the only ones that were against. They're the against. He's so cute. They said they were in Muslim gear. We can stop the pictures or make it end on something else. But no, actually, it's not the worst picture. It's been happening. Here's what I learned: that there were two groups who were against the anti-Muslims, and they had two different perspectives. The white people, by clothing, were this is a peaceful thing. We're coming out just to show a presence. The white people had the belief that the other group, the answer, and born racism, were there to create trouble. I didn't see it, but they were younger. The reason why some of them had their faces covered was because they have a heavy distrust of the police. The police did go over to this younger group, and I didn't know this, but if you have like a square thing for your poster to be on, that could be used as a weapon. If you have a flag that's on a pole that's over a certain width, that could be a weapon. So the police came over. The paper said they were in riot gear. I happen to know by doing a ride-along with Roseville Police, they always wear all that bulky stuff, the shield. So the only thing they had that could be considered riot gear was that thing they put down over their face so you spit on them or something. That was it. And this guy did hug me. And so I did go over and talk to them. And as she said, she believed that the police, and we did see the police do this, they rolled past on our white side too, and they take video of everybody. And I guess they do that so if it did get agitated, they would have this video. So their whole point was, let's wear that. We don't want to be identified because we're a little more assertive about this. But all in all, it was an interesting thing because when I went over to cross the street, I don't know if you're all familiar with the intersection outside Galleria, but it is it's very, very busy. And when you tried to cross, I did get over to cross. I could talk to the people who have the resist racism signs and the young woman the scarf. And when I tried to go then walk over to the side where the people had the American flags, the cops wouldn't let me cross. And instantly you're like, wait a minute, I have a right to associate with anyone I want. These are public streets. And you're like, oh, but those little police have the right to maintain order. They're like the Martha Stewarts of police. They do everything very neatly and tidy. So they didn't really show, I don't think, prejudice against any one group, but they were there very much. Keep sure no one was hit by a car, and you learn police actually do have a right to maintain public safety. So part of my old, whatever, had to be vigilant. Roseville cops aren't trying to really stop you. But it was an interesting experience, and just for any of you who went to the rally, it really was the women's one where we wore little pink hats. The thing that was the takeaway from that is if you only came out that day to wear a pink hat, there has to be more. Indivisible came out, and there are some, to stand up against hate felt like a very good use of my morning, even if I did spill coffee on my white outfit there. Just the minute I got in the car, I mean, that's it. But you had a question?
Yeah, I'm confused about the three different groups. Is this group that says love and be loved the same one that says punch and Nazi?
No. This whole group that was in front of BJ's, poor BJ's, their brand is forever sullied. They are the anti-Sharia law. There was a woman who held a sign that said feminists against Sharia law,
Okay,
which
so
was...
love and be loved is part of that message?
Yeah, they were all just kind of fruity on that side. And there was also some people who were of the belief against them, who were there and stayed there and had some signs. But what was very confusing, and if you go online and you look up this group, Act for America, you will see the way that they're trying to use distrust about what Sharia law is to bring dissension against all Muslims. So it's very creative how people are using their messagings to keep hate going, and it's dangerous.
So there was an element there that was, I guess you said love, or love is for love, or
Love and be loved.
love and be loved, okay. But they were able to stand amongst the other people who were...
Just a few, yes. And they had co-opted some of the signs. So they had like some of these nice messages that they were in with. Most of the people, there were very few people actually on the anti-Muslim side. That's why when the SACB said 300 turned out to march against Muslim, that's completely inaccurate. I mean, you could look at these pictures and they're on if you Google this thing, you can see the pictures. There weren't that many. In fact, when we were all coming in our white clothes, let's talk this on. When I go into the place, the corner, this young guy comes out of his car, the shaved head, and he's got his big Confederate flag. And he's got his, the jeans where his boots, and he's got some, I don't know, stuff dangling. Men with lots of keys dangling, if you do it, I don't know, it's sort of a pet peeve of mine. And I was just like, whoa, dude, you're on the wrong corner. But we didn't really say it to him, and then he goes up to all these nice senior citizens who are in white offering donuts, and he's like, where is it? And they're like, you're over by BJ's. And he's like, so like, oh, thank you very much, and all that. He never showed up on the other side. I just think he said, I'm going home. This isn't what I thought it would be.
Well, Janet, thank you so much for sharing your experience with us. That's great. Open floor, announcements. Anything else anyone would like to share today?
During the lunch, I'm going to be covering the universe.
Do you have enough time? Because
I was like,
that's
wow,
a pretty big
okay.
topic. I saw your post. Do you have enough time to cover the entire universe, or just a...
I have some whiteboards
Got a
over
whiteboard?
there. Within the first couple of minutes, I'm going to teach the basics of calculus and physics.
Okay.
And after that, I'm going to explain why almost a century of cosmology is wrong.
Fantastic. All right. There you go. Happening during lunch hour. Any other announcements? Cool. Well, that's... you were waiting for me to finish.
No, I just wanted to mention, we did have a wine and get-together, wine and chit-chat at Caroline's place
Yeah.
last month, right?
How was that?
It was fun.
It was
Thank you
awesome.
for hosting.
You're welcome.
And she's got a terrific swimming pool, so if it gets real hot, we may
That's
do
right.
that again.
He's setting you up here.
I know he is,
Yeah, so anyhow, we'll talk about that, but for those who've been
Yeah.
attending that, we've been having just wonderful turnouts and a lot of really good times, so we'll get together and figure out whose house we want to hold that
Good.
next, so.
And if I remember, you're also a Disneyland person, aren't you?
Oh, she's got the whole museum in the house.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. We went last month. It was a lot of fun.
It's always fun.
Oh, yeah. Any other announcements? You're gonna wait for me to push the button. Okay. So, again, thank you to all of our speakers, to Ted, and everyone who helped set up, and all the volunteers, everything like that. In a few minutes, we're going to pass the hat. We've got another song after that. And if you so choose to put money into said hat, this is where your money goes. We do pay a little bit to rent the room, supplies for the coffee and the donuts and the potluck, childcare stuff. We pay for our meetup and our insurance. And so if you are able to, that'd be great. If you want to support Sunday Assembly but you can't right now, maybe you can later on online. And so if you go to our meetup page, you'll be able to click on the chip in button and do that. So we're gonna play a little song from Mr. John Lennon. But while the song is playing and we're passing hats, maybe you could all stand up and just introduce yourself to the person next to you. Your question for today is, if you want a free all expense paid trip to anywhere, where would you go?
Denmark.
So talk to your person next to you about that.
Where are you going?
We'll pass that hat around.
Before we came to this.
If you want a free all expense paid trip to anywhere, where would you go? Mars. So you gotta get back. It's around here.
There was one.
I wouldn't enjoy it as much. Or if I die on the way there. Denmark.
So we're doing the pool party at my house.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Thank you so much for participating in that. So we're going to do our last song. Again, I'm going to ask you guys to stand, but we've got a little different thing going on here, just the way that the chairs were set. So pay attention. When we're done with our song, setting up for the potluck, if you're in a purple chair on that side, purple chair is going to go against the wall. If you're in a green chair on this side, green chairs go against the wall. All right?
Why did you make it so complicated?
Because that's David.
No, it's not my fault. It's just how the chairs got set up this
It's a
time.
science experiment.
It's the middle row, okay? The middle row.
Direction.
The middle row goes against the wall.
I see.
You see how that works? And that gives us room for the table.
Why didn't you just say that?
Because normally it's all color coded. Just stand up and sing, okay? Stand up and sing.
Go ahead, give him hell.
Alright, middle row. Middle row against the wall. Let's get the people to bring out some tables and some food. Thank you all for enjoying another Sunday assembly.
Thank you. Thank you for playing the music.
Oh, I get what he was doing.
Gotta get saved.
Those of us who can't carry it, we appreciate it. Sorry.
Alright, so we're good. Give it to Ken or put it in
Yeah.
So thank you for the